Thank you for joining this deep journey into one of the most magical, philosophical, and timeless books ever written, The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. Before we begin, please remember to like, share, and comment your favorite lesson at the end of this video. Your support helps this community grow and brings more book lovers together from around the world. Now, let's begin this exploration of life, love, innocence, and the wisdom that hides beneath the simplicity of this little book that has touched millions. The Little Prince is not just a story about a boy from another planet. It's a reflection of what it means to be human. It's about rediscovering the parts of ourselves we've forgotten in the rush of growing up. Written in 1943 by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, a pilot and poet, this story blends imagination with truth, fantasy with philosophy. Every planet, every character, and every encounter reveals a truth about life that most adults overlook. And as we dive deeper, you'll see that this book was never meant just for children. It was written for the child that still lives inside every adult. The story begins with a narrator, a pilot, whose plane crashes in the Sahara Desert. He meets a mysterious young boy, the Little Prince, who asks him to draw a sheep. From that moment, the narrator's life changes. Through their conversations, the book unfolds a series of lessons that are simple on the surface but profoundly deep in meaning. The Little Prince comes from a small planet, no bigger than a house, called Asteroid B612. There, he spends his days caring for his volcanoes and protecting a single flower, a rose. And it is this rose that becomes the heart of the story, teaching us the first and perhaps most beautiful lesson, that love and responsibility are inseparable. The Little Prince's love for his rose is pure but complicated. The rose is vain, proud, and sometimes demanding. Yet, despite her flaws, the prince learns that he loves her because of the time and care he has given to her. That's the first major truth of this book. What makes something important to us is the time and energy we invest in it. As the fox later tells the Little Prince, it is the time you have wasted for your rose that makes your rose so important. That line alone carries a lifetime's worth of wisdom. It means that love is not about perfection. It's about connection, about the bonds we form through attention, care, and consistency. In a world that often treats relationships as disposable, this lesson reminds us that meaning comes from devotion. As the Little Prince travels from planet to planet, he meets a series of adults, each representing a different flaw in human nature. On the first planet, he meets a king who rules over nothing. The king symbolizes our desire for control, for authority, even when it's meaningless. We often crave power just to feel important. But like the king, we forget that leadership without empathy or purpose is hollow. The Little Prince doesn't need to obey the king. He's free, but the king's need for validation shows how many adults confuse respect with dominance. The next planet hosts a vain man who wants only to be admired. He teaches us how fragile the ego can be. Vanity, the endless need to be seen, liked, and praised, blinds us to genuine connection. This is even more relevant today, in the age of social media, where many chase validation rather than authenticity. The Little Prince's simple honesty exposes how shallow this pursuit is, because when we crave admiration without understanding, we end up lonely. Then comes the drunkard, who drinks to forget that he is ashamed of drinking. His circular reasoning reflects how humans often trap themselves in cycles of guilt and escape. We try to numb our pain instead of facing it, but like the drunkard, we only deepen our suffering. The Little Prince feels sorry for him because he sees how adults create their own prisons of regret. On the fourth planet lives the businessman, who counts stars endlessly, claiming ownership of them. He represents greed, the illusion that owning things gives life meaning. He's so busy counting that he never truly sees or enjoys the stars. The prince realizes that adults are often obsessed with numbers, profits, possessions, status, forgetting that the beauty of life can't be measured or owned. In this Saint-Exupéry criticizes modern society's obsession with materialism. The lamplighter comes next, lighting and extinguishing his lamp every minute as his planet spins faster and faster. He represents devotion and duty, but also the tragedy of blind obedience. His work is noble but meaningless because he no longer questions why he does it. The little prince admires him because, unlike the others, he at least serves something beyond himself. But he also reminds us that purpose without awareness leads to burnout. Finally, the geographer, who records the world's wonders but never leaves his desk, symbolizes knowledge without experience. He knows about mountains, rivers, and cities, yet has never seen them. The little prince realizes that wisdom requires living, not just learning. Knowledge without curiosity or experience becomes lifeless. Each encounter reveals a truth about adulthood, control, vanity, addiction, greed, blind duty, and intellectual detachment, and through them, the little prince begins to see how adults lose sight of what truly matters. When he arrives on Earth, he meets the fox, one of the most beloved characters in all of literature. The fox teaches him the essence of relationships. You become responsible, forever, for what you have tamed, he says. This line defines the moral core of the book. Taming, in the fox's language, means building trust and emotional connection. It's about transforming a stranger into someone meaningful. The fox helps the little prince understand that love cannot exist without vulnerability and responsibility. You can't love without risking pain, and you can't form bonds without time and care. Then, the fox gives him the most famous truth of all. One sees clearly only with the heart. What is essential is invisible to the eye. This sentence transcends literature. It's a philosophy for living. It means that truth, meaning, and beauty are not found in what we can measure or see, but in what we feel. It's the foundation of empathy, to look beyond appearances and see the essence of things. The world trains us to value external success, but the fox reminds us that the soul's worth lies in what can't be seen: love, loyalty, and kindness. When the little prince meets the snake, we encounter the theme of mortality. The snake, mysterious and calm, offers him a way back to his planet, but it's also a metaphor for death. The snake represents the inevitable truth that everything ends. But in Saint-Exupéry's hands, death isn't terrifying. It's a return, a transformation, a way of going home. It's a reminder that life gains meaning because it's finite. Through the desert scenes, we see the pilot, the narrator, rediscovering wonder through the little prince. The pilot learns that imagination and innocence are not childish but sacred. When adults lose their sense of wonder, they become disconnected from joy. The prince's presence awakens that lost spark. And when he eventually leaves, the pilot realizes that even in absence, love remains. The little prince returns to his star, but his laughter, like the stars in the sky, becomes a symbol of eternal presence. And when you look at the stars at night, he says, you will laugh, and it will be as if all the stars were laughing. That's the magic of this book. It transforms loss into beauty. The deeper you read, the more you realize that The Little Prince is a book about the balance between childhood and adulthood. It asks us, when did we stop seeing elephants inside boas? When did we stop being curious, imaginative, and fearless? The narrator's drawing of the boa constrictor swallowing an elephant, misunderstood by every adult, shows how society trains us to stop seeing with imagination. We replace wonder with logic, dreams with duties, and passion with practicality. But the book challenges us to recover that childlike vision, to remember that creativity and emotion are not weaknesses but strengths. Each page invites reflection on what we've forgotten. The rose teaches love and fragility. The fox teaches connection and responsibility. The king and the businessman show the emptiness of authority and greed. The snake reminds us of life's impermanence. And the stars teach us that love doesn't end, it changes form. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry wrote this book during wartime, when humanity was losing its innocence. As a pilot who often flew alone over deserts, he knew what it meant to face silence, distance, and mortality. The Little Prince was his way of preserving faith in humanity. His words remind us that the heart is our compass, and that meaning is found not in possessions or power, but in relationships, imagination, and love. When you finish reading this story, something changes inside you. You realize that life's greatest truths are simple. You start noticing beauty in small things, a sunset, a flower, a child's laughter. You understand that what matters most cannot be bought or explained, only experienced. You remember how to see with your heart again. And that's the miracle of this book. It doesn't just tell a story, it reawakens your soul. Thank you for staying with me through this deep exploration of The Little Prince. If you love this journey, please like, share, and comment your favorite lesson or quote below. It truly helps this channel reach more people who believe in the power of stories. And remember, the eyes are blind. One must look with the heart.